You mind your own business and let people live their lives.
Good. I just want to say hi because I'm a big fan.
Let's hear your opinion.
You, how dare you?
2, 3.
How dare
I
what?
validate this bull. It's
What?
nonsense.
What validate what?
I don't appreciate your mission, and I hope that you start to think differently in the future.
Very good.
What is going on, everyone? James Klug here. By popular demand, I am back here with Billboard Chris, and we are at the Jersey Shore. We're going to be talking to people about how children cannot consent to medical transition. Chris, are you ready to get going?
I'm so ready. I'm already getting so much support here. It's incredible the amount of awareness that's increased over the last few years. Let's go hit it.
Let's go talk to some people. Huge shout out to our friends over at iTarget for sponsoring this video. What do you think about this? Children cannot consent to puberty blockers. We're talking about children here, not adults.
Yeah.
Children, what's going
In
on?
my opinion, you guys are totally correct. Children can't consent to puberty blockers. But of course, it's, the family and of course the laws are all changing and revolving.
That is complete facts. I agree to everything on that board.
Yeah, kids can't consent to that.
They should have a chance to grow up like everybody else did. Drugs ain't for kids.
I agree.
Of course she agrees. She's a mom.
I'm 45 and I still don't know who I want to be, so yeah.
Have you guys heard about that at all, where children are skipping puberty and then they're taking cross-sex hormones?
I do not know.
No, I don't have know about that.
What do you think about that? That's insane?
Yeah, I think that's insane.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
There's no point of skipping puberty. You need it to grow and
Yeah.
develop.
When they're 18, I will love them for whoever they become. Under 18, they will stay what they were born with.
Growing up as a kid, we never dealt with this kind of shit. Now I don't know what the hell's going on with this country.
Children cannot consent to puberty blockers. What are your thoughts?
I think they know what they want in life at a young age. They feel it.
Yeah, what does that mean for a 10-year-old boy to feel like a girl, for example?
That's how he feels. So I think we should allow him to be free to feel the way he wants to feel.
Okay, but what does it mean to feel like a girl?
I don't know.
So you don't know and you're a grown woman. How would we
yeah.
expect a 10-year-old to know what it is to feel like a girl?
What society says a girl is. We like, the color pink, for instance. We like dolls. We like shoes and clothes and nail polish and do our hair.
So stereotypes determine whether we are a girl or a boy?
Wow, you're really confusing me. I don't know.
Of course, in my humble opinion, in my only opinion, yes, I do agree with you guys.
That's fair.
But again, people have free will. There's their families, and of course, yeah. I mean, I don't know what's the bigger goal for you guys? Like, what do you guys want? Like a law to
100%.
Yeah, just a law to. I mean, yeah, I see that, but
To protect children.
yeah, exactly, yeah.
Similar to how parents they're not allowed to feed their kids alcohol, cigarettes,
Right, exactly.
allow them to watch pornography. They're
Same
not
thing.
allowed to
But you can get
abuse
guns
their child.
in other countries at 18. I mean, in other states at 18 and stuff like that. So that's also something to talk about. But yes,
Children.
yeah.
We're talking about an experiment on kids that's never been done in
Yeah.
the history of the world,
Yeah,
where we're stopping the physical development of children.
right.
So some people kind of take this approach,
Sorry.
well,
That's a
that's their
hero.
choice and their parents are fine with it, that's their thing. But parents don't have the right to abuse their children.
Right.
I mean,
wouldn't.
you take a
I
10-year-old.
wouldn't necessarily say it's abuse
How come?
to an extent because gender dysphoria is a real thing and it's been studied for quite some time.
That's
And
absolutely
if you feel how you feel, you can't change that. And if somebody says that they feel that way, they feel that way. And I agree with you guys that there should be a law preventing that, but I don't think that that's the worst problem in the world to think about right now.
Well, those are the
You're
stereotypes.
asking the wrong person.
But the color pink doesn't determine if
No, it doesn't. I
we're a
just
girl
think
or
it's,
if a boy
it's
plays with
a
Barbies, that doesn't make him a
feeling.
girl.
Like if they feel that they're a girl stuck in a boy's body, then we should embrace that. I'm for
Do you mind
that.
if I interrupt really quick? You're giving basically stereotypical aspects of being a
Yeah.
little girl. If a boy seems to like pink or like shoes or anything like that,
doesn't mean
skip puberty.
No, I'm not saying to skip puberty. I'm just saying that, like, I have 4 daughters, and if one of them came to me and said, I feel like I'm a male.
You mind your own business and let people live their lives.
Would you like to talk about it, sir?
Problem, sir?
That's not a very convincing argument. All right, everyone, let's take a few moments to talk about today's sponsor. There's a lot that people are nervous about right now. Open up social media or turn on the news, and all you see is crime and societal decay. And there's a lot of people that just go out and buy a firearm, and then it sits in a safe. If there's ever an emergency, they're not gonna be prepared and run the risk of injuring themselves or others. There's no other way around it. You need to train often. Unfortunately, for most people, it's difficult to be constantly going to the range, assuming there's even one nearby, and ammo prices are through the roof. iTarget was invented so you could practice anytime in the safety and convenience of your own home. Simply download the iTarget Pro app, load your caliber-specific laser bullet into your firearm, and start training. Practice alone, compete with friends, or use it to safely train your friends and family who are new to firearms. You guys, go to itargetpro.com and get 10% off at checkout when you use the offer code Klug. This is the smartest, safest way to train. That's why competitive shooters trust dry fire training as part of their regimen. Get yours today. That's the letter I, targetpro.com, itargetpro.com, offer code Klug. I'll put links down in the description below. Let's get back to this video.
People are incredibly afraid to even have the conversation because it's like so riddled with like accusations of bigotry. It's like all kinds of like censorious rhetoric. And it's like really important just to be able to like speak with your whole chest and say like very confidently, like not beating around the bush and saying like, no, I know men can't be women. I know children cannot change their sex. I know what we're doing is actually sterilizing them. It's actually part of like a broader censorship campaign, all that good stuff. Like it's really important to like not have any qualms whatsoever about saying that with your whole chest.
I just
back to her.
That they should be able to embrace the way they feel.
Okay.
That's it.
So do
and
I.
be happy. Yeah. I don't feel that, you know, who are we to say how they feel?
Okay.
It's just like if they fall and scrape their knee, who are we to say that they hurt themselves?
I actually want to go back to what she was saying about the gender dysphoria, talking about how it's obviously a real thing.
Right.
And children experience it.
Mm-hmm. And I'm a camp counselor. I'm a camp counselor too. We have trans children that have actually already been on puberty blockers. Like, but that's none of my business, right? So that's none of my business. So I don't really ask about it.
So you mentioned the studies.
Yeah.
There have been a lot of studies. You're absolutely right. There were 12 major academic studies done before we started giving kids puberty blockers.
Mm-hmm.
Back when this affected a much lower percentage of the population. And more than 80% of the time, these kids with gender dysphoria simply grew out of it when they went through puberty. So puberty itself is the cure for gender dysphoria in almost all these cases. And a majority of these children actually grew up to be gay.
Okay.
So what this is doing is taking kids when they're 10, 11 years old, just hitting puberty, blocking their physical development with these drugs that have never been approved for this purpose. These drugs were approved to treat prostate cancer, endometriosis in women, same drug given to pedophiles to chemically castrate them. To this day, it's still being done.
Mm-hmm.
But we're giving these experimentally to kids when we know from all the academic studies that if we just let them go through puberty, this is almost always a phase. So, I don't know, it seems pretty insane to me that for the first time in human history, we're stopping the physical development of children, giving them the opposite sex hormones, and even cutting off their body parts. I do consider that to be child abuse, 100%.
So what do you think about that take?
I see, yeah, and that take, yeah, I understand how that, you can consider that child abuse.
This ideology is teaching, as you've mentioned, that potentially children are born in the wrong body. Now, I've been traveling North America and a little bit of the world for almost 3 years having these conversations.
Yeah.
And whenever I ask people, what does it mean to be born in the wrong body? To this day, not one person has been able to tell me. Because ultimately, this ideology hinges on one thing only: regressive, sexist stereotypes. And as you just mentioned a minute ago, having nail polish, liking pink, liking Barbies, these are things that we stereotypically associate with girls.
Yeah.
But if a boy likes these things, that doesn't make him any less of a boy.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. I mean.
So what does it mean then to be born in the wrong body?
I don't know because I
32, you're
didn't.
ready? 32.
I don't feel that way.
Well, maybe there is no such thing.
But who are we to say that there is no such thing?
Well, we are the adults here to guide the 10-year-olds who are being lied to and who are being told that just because they don't conform to these regressive stereotypes, that there must be something wrong with them. Because telling a child that they were born in the wrong body is an extraordinarily abusive thing to say to a kid. You're telling them.
Would you like to present an argument that's actually reasonable against this?
What's bigoted about this?
What's bigot? You strive on this.
What is bigoted about saying that children cannot consent to puberty blockers?
He has no opinion. You have no opinion.
Well,
Here you are with the
let's hear your opinion.
Huh?
Let's hear your opinion.
You. How dare you?
How dare
validate this bullshit. It's
What?
nonsense.
What validate what?
You.
What about it?
Call me whatever you want, it's fine. Because those words are really meaningless. It's like, it's at the basic point where it's like, if you say things like, oh, well, you know, there are differences between men and women, that's transphobic. Great. That's actually wonderful that that's transphobic because you make the word meaningless. It disabuses the word of all meaning. It's like, something you get to like the real roots of it. It's like, actually, I don't have a gender identity. You don't have a gender identity. No one has a gender identity. It's like this weird amorphous, like quasi-Gnostic, you know, idea of a soul. It's like all backwards. It's regressive.
What did you think about what he said right there when it comes to people seeing their gender dysphoria, children seeing their gender dysphoria desist after puberty? Did you know about that before?
Oh, no, I didn't. No, but
80% roughly.
But it makes sense. Like, yeah, it would make sense that that would happen. But again, to differentiate that sexual attraction and how you identify and how you give off your gender are two separately completely different things.
Yeah, it is.
But I do understand.
orientation,
I do
totally
understand where he's coming
Totally.
from, and that it would be like sexual orientation. I was always a tomboy. Like,
For sure.
you know, for the most part, I do identify as gay. So it's just like I was always a tomboy, but no, I never felt like I wanted to be a boy. Like
Right,
I'm
right. And
totally
a lot of
comfortable-
women-
I'm
a
totally
lot of
comfortable
women are in
being
that
with
same-
a girl. I don't want to be a boy, but you
Right.
know, like of course, I have masculine energy about me, and I'm fine with that. But no, but again, regarding this, like, yeah, I agree with you guys.
Are you public about this position in your own life, and if so, how has that been for you?
All the people who know me in real life know exactly how I feel. It's very important to be very open about it, especially because it's like, a lot of people, what they like to do is like critique the excesses. So they'll be like, oh my God, isn't it insane that they have men and women's sports? It's like, yeah, that is insane. But that's like that's a downstream cause of like the presupposition that we have gender identities. You have to like, you have to reject it, root it in STEM and say, no, at its very fundamental basis, like we don't have gender identities.
Why don't you give him an actual convincing argument?
Okay, so he doesn't want to talk. We got some people over here who think I'm a loser. So tell me, what is being a loser about thinking that we shouldn't be sterilizing kids?
I don't know if it's sterilizing. I think it's
I do.
respecting a child's boundaries and opinions and feelings.
All right, so let's slow this down a
Mind
little
if I
bit
come
and
over
just
here?
start off on a little bit better foot. So
You're not hot.
what's your opinion on trans kids, for example? What do you think it is to be a trans kid?
Emily, we're too educated.
I think it's just
would
about
love to be
respecting
Good, then go get some.
a child's beliefs and their identity. And like, I don't know, like when I was a kid, like you go through like phases where you're into stuff and you're not into stuff. So maybe at this point in time when you're 12 years old, you're like, I feel like I'm in the wrong body. And that's fine, like that's how you feel. And then if you continue that lifestyle, then that's your life and that's how you want to live. And I think we should all respect that because it's not my body, it's not my life, I don't have to live it. But my job as an adult and a human being is to respect the choices other people make.
Okay, but if we're going to give kids experimental drugs that are actually
Well,
cancer
don't-
drugs used for prostate cancer, used for endometriosis, used to chemically castrate sex offenders, shouldn't we be able to define what it means to be born in the wrong body?
All drugs
Well, we-
kill all people. We all take them.
Well, we can define what it means to be in the wrong body.
Okay, what is that?
What does it mean?
I feel like I'm in the wrong body. That's what it means. Like, I don't feel comfortable. I don't feel like myself. I don't feel like who I am in the skin that I'm in. And if there's a way for me to change that, then I'm going to do it.
And do you think 10-year-olds can
Absolutely.
consent to taking these experimental drugs, which
Absolutely.
leave them infertile and
I think
unable to have a
children-
sex life as an adult, for
I
example?
think children are extremely naive, and I think children will listen to the adults around them. But I also think as a child, you live in your skin from the moment you're born to the moment you die. You know yourself. And if you wake up and you're 10 years old and you just constantly feel like I identify as a female, I am a female. If I constantly felt like I just identify and I understand that gender so much more, and I wouldn't make that decision when I was 10, 12, 13, I would hope the adults in my life respect that.
A big factor there is a lot of these kids a majority of these kids are
Yeah.
growing up to be gay, and their parents are allowing them to throw away adult sexual function under the age of 18. And remember, we're talking about children here, right? So
Right.
we don't
You're
have a
right.
problem with what
You're
adults
right.
are doing. We would probably criticize maybe some of the pathways that they're going when it comes to being rushed into getting surgeries and stuff like that.
Right.
But that's a different conversation. We're talking about protecting children. So when we talk about creating laws to say that children
So
cannot
should-
consent to
right.
this,
They
is
can't
that
consent to tattoos. They can't consent to. Obviously, they shouldn't be able to consent to stuff like that. It makes sense.
For
Like,
sure. So is that, do you think that's a pretty reasonable position?
I
Would you
think,
say?
I think it's a 100% reasonable position.
The reason it's political is because like there's a whole operation in expanding the Civil Rights Act. I know you're Canadian, so it's like here we have the Civil Rights Act, and it's about expanding the protections for the Civil Rights Act to
Right.
include gender identity.
That's exactly
expression
right.
Through Bostock, so it's like once you create that whole new category of censorship, it's like you're no longer able to like talk in your workplace, you're no longer able to talk in public. If you're connected to any type of institution like a school or anything like that, you are now self-censoring. And it's like if you are self-censoring people to the point where they can't say simple things like only women give birth, all other political discussions become moot. And I think it's really important for normal people to say, I don't care what the experts say. I don't care what the politicians say. I don't care what the American Medical Association says. I don't care what the people on the TV say. I know what a man and a woman is. I know men can't be women. And that is like so powerful. So like I think like this whole trans question is like actually like the tip of the spear on one respect, but it's also like the most potent weapon against this like broader censorious like political regime that we're all like kind of reacting against.
That's right.
I want to touch on one point you made, which is so important. We don't have gender identities. The entirety of this ideology is based on a lie, going all the way back into the late 50s, mid 60s, starting with
Look up Dr. Money. Look up Dr. Money.
That's right.
Yeah.
But it's gotten so big, and it's pushed by all these NGOs and governments and World Health Organization, etc., that just because it's so big, people think there must be some legitimacy to it. But there's nothing to this. There's no foundation. It's all a lie. And as soon as people understand that, this whole thing comes unraveling, and we're going to defeat it.
Oh, 100,000%. I feel like it's so like immaterial, but that genuinely does feel like a vibe shift, like for lack of a better term. Like I feel like very much people are waking up, and it's just like really about like giving the people the gall to say it with your whole chest. You know what up is and what down is, what left is, what right is. Say it with your whole chest. Don't be afraid. The worst they're gonna do to you is try to get you fired. Okay? It's like you can find another $60,000 a year job. I promise you. This is America.
So when we look at the kids who go to these gender clinics, I just want to cite a woman who used to work at the Washington University Transgender Clinic in St. Louis. Her name's Jamie Reed. She published an article last year. She quit working there in November. She'd worked there for 4 years as case manager. And she describes herself as a queer woman. She's married to a trans man. And she says she's politically left of Bernie Sanders. So she's not some conservative, right?
Right.
And she says all these kids that show up at the gender clinic all have some other underlying mental health comorbidity.
Mm-hmm.
Close to half of them are on the autism spectrum.
Okay.
Kids who have suffered abuse or trauma or sexual abuse or have borderline personality disorder, kids who are cutting, kids with eating disorders. It's all these kids who are struggling with something in life. And they're being treated as though gender is the underlying cause of all these issues. And oftentimes on their very first appointment, they're being prescribed these extraordinarily damaging puberty-blocking drugs, which have never been approved for this purpose. Other countries in the world like Sweden, Finland, England, Norway are doing away with this practice, progressive countries, not because of politicians, but because their medical boards conducted a systematic review of all the evidence. Don't you think maybe we should be slowing it down and treating these other conditions as well?
I absolutely think we should treat all conditions. If a child's gone through trauma, I think they deserve treatment for that as well. Like, I'm not saying that, I don't think it's one or the other, but I do think just because a child's experienced trauma or been through things that I can't imagine doesn't mean we shouldn't believe the things that they're telling us. I could have gone through something extremely traumatic. I could have had my house burned down in front of me and my parents die while I'm sitting there. That doesn't mean I don't feel like I'm in the wrong body.
But what
Those
I'm telling
could be
you
two separate incidents.
is these kids, statistically speaking, are children who've suffered abuse or trauma, and we're not treating that anymore.
And do you think maybe that abuse and trauma made them feel inferior or wrong, or like, you know, something is wrong with me, I can't be the person I want to be because clearly the adults in my life don't respect it, so maybe if I'm someone else it'll be better, which isn't good thinking, like, I mean, but that's how kids think. And I think we should encourage and support children who want to be who they want to be. I think that's what it comes down to. I think the more we support children being who they want to be, the better adults we're going to have in the future.
But, you know, 10-year-olds engage in magical thinking, right?
Absolutely. I'm a school counselor. That's my job. I literally do this professionally.
Can children consent to giving away adult sexual function? Can they consent to giving away adult sexual function?
Here, let me tell you what he's talking about.
So you're saying that as an adult, their ability to have sex may be different due to the decisions they made as a child.
He can unpack it.
So Marci Bowers is a person who says he's a trans woman. He's the president of the World Professional Association for Transgender Health.
Pause. He says he's a trans woman.
That's right.
So she says X, Y, and Z.
Well, you can use whatever pronouns you wish.
Well, no, that's what I mean. Like, we're going to respect people who they are. That's what it's about.
They don't want us to have the conversations because really what it is, it's about empowering people with the rhetorical tools that they need to do this. Because when normal people have this conversation with someone who, you know, is more familiar with the discourse, but on the opposite end of it, it's like having a discourse like on a field laden with bear traps, right? They want you to say XYZ phrase so that they can be like, "Up, you're homophobic. Up, you're racist. Up, you're oh, you mentioned Dr. Money." Like, so it's like it really is about getting people to get comfortable with the back and forth, because these people really are NPCs, for lack of a better term, to use like a meme term. It's like these people don't actually believe what they actually say they believe. No one actually believes men can be women. They are pretending to believe that. So it's like if you just have the rhetorical tools to navigate that kind of dance with them, you can really, it just falls apart so easily. It's so easy once you know how to do it, and it's like that's why what you're doing is so important, because these conversations and seeing the conversations gives people those rhetorical tools. It's all rhetorical because no one really believes it.
When people don't respect people's boundaries and don't respect these identities and don't respect that's when there's issues. That's why trans kids have the highest suicide rate out of everybody.
All right, well,
because people do not accept them. It's not my business.
Okay.
What you do when you go home is not my business.
Let me just stay focused on this one issue, though.
Okay, we're talking about sex. I'm 10 years old.
Well, let me tell you what Marci Bowers says. So Marci Bowers is the president.
I'm speaking.
All right.
So what I'm saying is,
but sorry for speaking while you're interrupting. My apologies.
I feel like you just want to argue. Like I'm giving you very valid, extremely like.
Do you mind if he gets his point out and then you can take it away?
Actually, I'm finished. My food is.
So Marci Bowers is the president of WPATH. Marci admits that none of the children.
Said. I don't appreciate your mission, and I hope that you start to think differently in the future, and you support the children in the ways they need to be supported.
Chemical
Marci
castration.
has stated that none of the children.
Just like the way you phrase that, like what are you getting at?
Hold on.
Like what are you getting from a student? Like from telling a child, like the way you
We're
put
talking
things.
about the truth of what happens. He's actually trying to tell you exactly what
And
one of
then
the
here you
leaders
are,
in the
but
industry is saying is happening, and you're not even willing to have the conversation. You're not even willing to listen to him.
Because I know exactly where he's coming from.
What is he going to say?
I know where he's coming from, the same place you're coming from, where you're going to frame it to fit the way that you believe.
Okay.
And that's
I can show you the video from Marci Bowers
it's
right now.
It's not even a conservative. We're not even talking about.
Did I say conservative? Did I say conservative or liberal? I said what you believe.
So how are we going to frame it then?
You're framing it in that what this is wrong. That's what you believe.
No, specifically, what is he getting at?
You're saying that trans kids being on puberty blockers affecting their sexual health and sexual, I don't know how you say, like how they have sex
Bowers has
in
said
the future.
none of the boys as adults have ever been able to have an orgasm who started puberty blockers at 10 or stage 2. Not one of the boys who started puberty blockers at 10 or stage 2 as
how
adults
big was that
have
sample
sexual
size?
function. He's the president of WPATH, so they know about all the thousands of kids. WPATH.
Okay.
You know what WPATH is?
I don't.
It's the World Professional Association for Transgender Health.
Okay.
They write what are called the standards of care.
Okay.
That children's hospitals can follow. So Marci Bowers himself has done more than 2,000 sex reassignment surgeries on males.
You not using the proper pronouns actually tells me everything about this.
Oh, okay. Very good.
Everything I need to know just
right.
came from those sentences.
Good
If
stuff.
that's true, then that really sucks for those men. I don't know what to tell. Like I don't.
Right.
I'm not a scientist.
I can show you the video from him if you want.
No, I'm not saying you're wrong. I
Okay.
believe you. And that sucks. I don't know how else to say that. If you can't have an orgasm, that
So
really
the question
sucks.
is, can a 10-year-old consent to giving that away?
I think we need to respect the things that kids say.
You know, people are gonna think, oh, you have to be homophobic or whatever, like, or you're transphobic but it's children. You know, I understand it. Like, at some point, you're not transphobic. You're just trying to be smart. Then it's common sense. I feel like
They're just little kids.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't even be political. It's
It's
children.
It shouldn't be political.
Spot on.
Politicians have
but
made
the
it
politicians make it that way,
That's
right?
Science, as we've all seen with everything in the world, things change.
Have you changed since you were 10 years old?
Absolutely.
How did you change?
I mean, like physically in every way you possibly could.
Did you learn some things since you were 10?
I would hope so. I learned quite a bit.
Right. So probably the way you think when you're 15 is a lot different than 10.
But I think
it's probably a
you're-
lot different at 20 and 25 and 30 as well.
Your morals and your identity, those things for me haven't changed. The way I feel and the way I believe certain things, from the time I've been able to think logically and put things together and do advanced problem solving, those things, I felt the same way about them.
Well, when I was
And
10 years
what-
old, I believed Santa Claus came down my chimney and put presents under the tree.
Right, because children believe in magical thinking, as
Also,
you
the
said.
problem-solving aspect of your brain isn't fully developed until the age of 25 as well, correct?
Okay, well, I'm still saying the way that I process information, the way I see it, the way things go through, that's how the same way that I thought things when I was a kid, I see it now. And, it's how you grow up. It's who you speak to. It's your parents. It's your family. And because I had parents who supported me and supported the way I thought, I was able to become an adult who feels okay.
Okay, one last question, if I may. What would you say to all of the detransitioners who were harmed as children, who are now saying, what the heck did you do to me? I was struggling in life with various other things, and on my first appointment you started me on this regimen of drugs and then surgeries, and now I'm infertile. I've had my breasts cut off as a child. I'm miserable. I feel like my life is ruined. What do you say to those children who are now young adults?
I'm really sorry that that happened to you. I'm really sorry that as a child you experienced something extremely traumatic and it led you one way or the other. And I'm really sorry you made an intense, extreme decision when you were a kid that now as an adult you don't feel was right. But that doesn't mean all those people that detransition, it doesn't mean that that's why everyone thinks.
Are you familiar with the statistics on gender dysphoria about how many kids grow out of it?
Gender what? Dysphoria?
Just gender dysphoria.
So like not feeling like you're the right gender?
Yeah, that's right. So historically, before they give kids puberty blockers, there are 12 major academic studies that have been done. They're all up on my website. And more than 80% of the time, kids with severe gender dysphoria that started from a young age, these kids simply outgrew it when they went through puberty. The most recent study that was done followed 139 boys from the age of 5 all the way into their 20s. 87.8% simply outgrew it. And this is the really interesting part that the trans activists never want to talk about. 63.6%, a majority of these kids across all these studies, grew up to be gay.
The president of WPATH, which is the World Professional Association for Transgender Health, they write the standards of care. He admits that none of the boys who started on puberty blockers at the beginning of puberty, it's called Tanner stage 2, none of them as adults have been able to have any sexual function. They've never had an orgasm. So this whole thing is the Wild West of medicine. We have all these countries in Europe who are doing away with this. Just yesterday, actually, 19 experts wrote a letter to the Endocrine Society here in the States debunking what the president of the Endocrine Society is saying.
Yeah.
Because they've done systematic reviews of all the evidence and found there is no evidence to support this. It's not reducing suicidality. It's not improving these kids' mental health outcomes. So if it's not doing any of that, what are we doing trying to change the bodies of
No, and I definitely agree. That's definitely interesting, and you guys are definitely educating me on certain things that I definitely didn't know.
And I appreciate you giving your perspective and point of view.
So this is now telling little kids who grow up to be gay that there's something wrong with them, which is the message we're sending when we tell a child they're born in the wrong body. We're telling them they were born wrong.
No one is telling a child you're born in the wrong body.
Of course they are.
It's a child coming
You're standing out
to
here saying kids are born in the wrong body.
Because, don't twist my words, please.
That's what you're saying.
I said we need to respect children's boundaries. So if a child comes up to me and says, I'm in the wrong body, I'm not going to sit there and tell them they're wrong.
What does it mean to be in the wrong body? How's that possible? What does it mean?
It means whatever they want it to mean.
That's not a definition.
I can't give it a definition because I've never experienced that.
Well, if we're going to sterilize kids, we should be able to define it, don't you think?
I'm not going to speak to something I've never experienced because that's not my job.
Well, if you're going to sterilize kids, don't you think as a counselor that you shouldn't be pushing this false ideology upon them?
I'm not pushing anything. I have a kid come in and they say, Miss Emily, I think I want to be a boy. Okay, talk to me. Why do you feel that way?
So here's what's actually happening in that instance. This child is deluded.
Hold on. Have you worked with
I'm going to tell you what you're doing to these kids right now.
Because
what you're doing is actual child abuse.
I'm actually done
You have a
with
child
this.
who's deluded.
I'm so sorry that you think this
That's
way.
fine,
and I
but
hope
I'm going to
one
get
day
my
you
point out
respect
here
people's
for the
boundaries.
camera.
I'm actually walking
You've got a
away.
child
You can
who's
turn the
deluded,
camera off.
and when you affirm that delusion, you are cementing this abusive thought in place that there's something wrong with this child, and that the only way they find true happiness is by physically changing their body and sterilizing themselves. You should do some more research because you are, as a counselor, a child abuser right now. Have a good day.
They young, they shouldn't be doing that anyway.
Oh, you're talking about the children, for sure.
They shouldn't be smoking.
They shouldn't be drinking.
You do, yeah.
They shouldn't be getting tattoos when they're 11 years old.
That's crazy.
That's crazy.
That's crazy.
Skipping puberty is way crazier than getting a tattoo, though.
Right, yeah.
A small child goes to her and says, I'm confused. Well, let's talk about why you're confused, and let me reinforce why that's correct.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I got
she
tired
just
of her.
admitted to that.
I got tired of her, and she is a child abuser. Whether she thinks she's loving or not is not the point. That woman is a child abuser. Because a child abuser is someone who is abusing children. And when she affirms these children's delusions, as she's doing every single time, she's cementing it in place. She's making them even more sure, because she's a supposed authority figure, she's making these kids even more sure that they need to change their bodies. Yeah. So whether she realizes it or not, and she doesn't, because she's stuck in some cult, and as you can see, like all cult members, she puts up a wall stopping her from being able to think.
She's one of, if not the first, adult in a child's life that sends them down the path of going through irreversible procedures to their bodies.
That's right.
Also admitted that she is about as smart as a 10-year-old. So.
Did she also admit that she was about as smart as a 10-year-old?
She said she hadn't changed her.
I mean, the logic here, a lot of these people ignore the fact that they're adults. They completely throw that. The lady before was saying, well, who makes the decision? You do. You're the adult. What are you talking about?
I really appreciate you having the.
Of course, and I thank you guys for having an open conversation with me too, knowing that I'm part of. I try to be.
There's something about you. You're very welcoming of a conversation.
Thank you,
Great job.
I mean, of course, I love to hear the other side. Like I love to. Of course, I have my own ignorances, but I like to educate myself on what your guys' perception is of things, of course.
Yeah,
and I understand it, like, and I agree for the most part. Yeah. So.
And then this is all based on evidence and science,
right,
and love and compassion.
Exactly.
No one hates any of these kids.
Right.
And that's the
thing,
that's
you
always
take
pushed by the left is that this is about hate. Are you kidding
Exactly.
me? And I want to say one thing about the censorship issue. The reason they had so much success censoring our speech is they combine these 4 letters which cause paralysis in men. LGBT. The T has nothing to do with the LGBT. But as soon as you talk about this, like we are, oh, now you're anti-LGBT.
That's absolutely right.
No. So people need to learn how to speak about this. They need to separate the LGBT from the T, the Q, and the plus, because that's all something totally different. And people are starting to learn that.
So just to reiterate that Chris is a moderate, right? Listen, I'm a homosexual. I'm a homosexual. But I'm no, actually, if you want to call you a bigot, just embrace it. At this point, you have to embrace it because these terms are meaningless. If transphobia means everything, transphobia means nothing. If bigotry means everything, bigotry means nothing.
What is your motivation for doing this?
I'm a dad of 2 girls, and this is my duty. I'm not going to send my girls into a world that doesn't know what a woman is. I'm not going to send them into a world that's changing the sex of children. This society's gone totally insane. As a dad, I have a responsibility to do the best thing I can to leave a proper legacy for my kids, and this world is not one that I'm comfortable leaving with them. And I have compassion for all these kids who are going through these tough times, who are having it made worse by insane and unethical doctors, teachers, counselors, psychotherapists. The government's pushing all this, and the government's not going to fix a thing, so it's up to the citizens to fix it. So that's what I'm trying to do, one conversation at a time.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, everyone, that is it for today. So we had a ton of really interesting conversations and a lot more support than I thought we would. Chris, how do you think the day went?
Amazing, tons of support. This area, a little bit different, but we got some amazing footage. It's always good to contrast things because the people who are against us, as usual, have nothing intelligent to say. They can't define any of these terms. It's all about feelings. So we got them thinking today. It was a good day.
Absolutely. And lastly, Chris, where can people find you to support your work? You're traveling all over the world doing this. Where can people find you?
Twitter @BillboardChris. Same thing for Instagram. My website's billboardchris.com. People can support me through there if they like.
You guys, I will put links down in the description below. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button. Make sure to subscribe for more videos and hit that bell notification button so you're notified next time I post. And I'll catch you guys in the next video. Thank you so much. Shout out to the boys. Thank you for the free merch. Getting hooked up.